Call this Village of Greenhills Council meeting for December the 10th, 2019 to order. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Halter?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Osmanoglu?
Here.
Ms. Hermes?
Here.
Ms. Metz?
Here.
Ms. Walther?
Here.
Mayor Moore?
Here. Okay, we have prayer by Maria Walther.
Lord, we ask you to send your spirit of servanthood upon all of us gathered here this evening to do your work for the benefit of all in our community. We ask you to bless our elected and appointed officials so they may deliberate with wisdom and act with courage. Bless the members of our community who comes here to speak before council so they stare their cause with honesty and humility. Lord, we ask you to bless us all. And we had many, many blessings. We live in a village that have caring people, has a caring chief of police and all his police officers that take care of us. We have an all-volunteer fire department that not many people can say that. And we have EMTs that when they come to your house, you know them. So Lord, we have so many blessings. We would like to ask, to pray for all the people here present today, to remember those that have passed. And they're now seated with you, Father. And their sacrifice is not forgotten, are those veterans. Lord, we pray also today that this day that we remember the Christmas season so near, let it be peace on earth, free from war, free from illness that savage our bodies and mind. And please let the wounded soldier heal. Let it be to those veterans who suffer the PTSD, find the peace that you so much spoke about. And thank you for the blessings of living in one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for us all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the approval for minutes of the previous meeting, November 26, 2019. Do we have any corrections or amendments? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. I want to acknowledge special guests that we have in the audience tonight from Dixie High School, going to learn how they do council meetings in Greenhills. And they may end up becoming a future mayor or council member themselves, maybe get into government, police chief, who knows? So thanks for coming. And I'll try to zip right through the meeting so you don't stay up too late. Okay, this is the time for citizens to comment on matters before council. When recognized, please come forward to the lectern, give your name and address, and state your comments or questions. This is not intended to be a dialogue with council or village staff. If you have questions, the questions will be recorded and referred to the manager's office for response. This will allow time for thorough and thoughtful consideration to be given to each question. Council meetings are recorded for ease of transcription. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not yield any or all of their time to other speakers.
Okay, Trish Bender. I have a list here so I can try to get through them in my 3 minutes. One thing I'd like to ask is an introduction for our new council members. I'd really like to know what they bring to the council, why they were chosen, and really who they are in Greenhills. I'd also like to have a request for public record for the financial report for the Village of Greenhills. My question is on the resolution 2019-34SS. There's talk about surplus property and the city manager being able to dispose of it. I'm not really sure or understand what that's about. Wondering why we're adding a $5 license tax to the village members, and wondering if there are any surplus money that we have in our funds. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Hi, Monique Mason-Halter. I'm here tonight to inform you about what you can do as a local government about small cell and 5G installation. The following information can be found at the nrdc.org. In August 2019, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia struck down the FCC's elimination of review under NEPA and the National Historic Preservation Act. No one appealed the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. As a result, companies must comply with environmental review requirements that existed prior to the FCC's order attempting to eliminate them. As a result, companies wishing to construct new small cell wireless facilities must complete an environmental assessment or certify that the proposed facility is categorically excluded from review. Construction cannot proceed without such documentation. As a local government, you can condition approval for new 5G cell construction upon compliance with state and federal requirements for environmental review. While a local government cannot add new requirements for environmental review, it can require proof that the necessary federal review has been done. Given the mounting evidence that the FCC's RF limits are inadequate, such federal review should include an evaluation of the adequacy of these limits. NEPA requires an analysis of environmental impacts of major federal actions. Such actions include various types of federal approvals, including wireless infrastructure. If the impacts may be significant, the agency must prepare an environmental impact statement. If an agency is unsure whether the impacts may be significant, it can prepare a shorter environmental assessment based on the environmental assessment. The agency will either move forward to prepare an EIS or instead prepare a finding of no significant impact, FONSI. The only way to avoid an EA or an EIS is if the action qualifies for a categorical exclusion. While some new cell construction may qualify for a categorical exclusion, the FCC has identified circumstances where a CE does not apply. For more information on the differences between an EIS and an EA, as well as the information on the use of and limits of categorical exclusions, see the Citizen's Guide to the National Environmental Policy Act, prepared by the White House Council on Environmental Quality. Anyone wishing to construct a facility that uses an FCC license must submit an environmental assessment to the FCC or certification that the facility is categorically excluded. There's more on the NRDC.org website in case this ever comes about. In
Okay.
Greenhills, you guys can do something if you choose.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think I've mentioned it before in front of council, but the prospect of having transmitting equipment installed in the residential areas is still a concern to me because I still have not seen where they've adequately tested such equipment for safety.
Okay. Do you want to jot down your, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, reports of village officials, municipal manager Yvonne Kovac.
I just want to make sure he's done. Is he done? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, ready? Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of things. I want to start with the local historic district update. You know, if you recall last winter, we had a number of, I'll say 7 or 8 property owner meetings to review possible guidelines for a local historic district. That information has all been taken and worked through the guidelines that were being proposed at that meeting by our consultant, and she has come up with a new draft in light of the comments that she heard. We talked about having a meeting for all of the property owners. Anybody who attended would get a direct mail. Anyone else will try to hit it through the journal, one call, you know, any method that we have to get word out there. We've picked a date of January 21st for that meeting. I believe that's a Tuesday, from 6:30 to 8:30 here in this room. So if you could get that on your calendars, we will be, again, doing direct mailings to anybody who attended those property owner meetings, and then try to find lots of other ways to get word out to all the other property owners who would fall in a potential local historic district. I think I also want to just briefly review again the historic districts, because it gets a little confusing sometimes if you don't deal with it every day. The village has been on the National Register of Historic Places since 1989. That was, I guess, what we call our original historic district. And then in 2017, end of 2016, I believe it was, we received a National Historic Landmark designation. So that was a slightly larger district. The one that we're talking about with the guidelines has not been developed yet, and would be a state certified district, and that's when design guidelines would apply for renovation and new construction. So I just wanted to clarify that. If people are seeing our signs, like you're entering the historic district, and they're thinking we've already designated those boundaries, that's a different district. So, several different tiers here. I hope that ask questions if you don't understand what's going on there, because it can be confusing. So, again, that date is January 21st, 6:30 to 8:30 here in this room. Wanted to let you know, this morning we had a really good meeting with our legal counsel to formulate a plan for addressing what's becoming way too many violations at the shopping center.
Time's up.
Your time's up.
I want you to talk faster. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take liberties and keep talking here. We have at least 15 businesses down there right now functioning without certificates of occupancy. And typically what happens, they'll submit their application for their certificate of occupancy. No information is submitted with that, no follow-up paperwork, documentation. And the request to provide the paperwork then gets ignored. They move in, they start operating their business. So this just isn't going to continue any longer. And we're going to be proposing to council some amendments to our codes that make it clear that if you don't submit certain documentations, required documents that would constitute a public nuisance, that will ultimately lead to shutting down the businesses. So you have that to look forward to real soon. I do want to remind council and the public that zoning, building, and fire codes are public safety issues. This isn't some kind of administrative exercise that we just have fun going through. There are very serious safety issues down there, and they need to be addressed. So I'll get off my soapbox now and continue. To Winton Road, we still have not come up with a cheaper alternative to paving that portion of Winton Road. We were at $33,000 cost for that. Seems a little excessive. We have one more group that's going to look at it, see if we can do anything a little bit cheaper. But if not, we'll attempt to fill, especially around the catch basin area, and there's another low area going across the street where we previously had a pipe issue. And again, for the public, the reason we're not going all out and completing this is because within about 2 or 3 months, we'll actually be having construction there. So there was a delay in getting the funding, took us a while. We now have that, so we will be moving forward on that. And just a reminder on Rumpke's holiday schedule, again on Christmas, the week of Christmas, the collection will fall the next day on Thursday, December 26th. Bless you. And on the following week with New Year's, the collection will be on Thursday, January 2nd. And that's what I have
Leaf
right
collection.
now. Oh, leaf collection, yes. Leaf collection is continuing through the 20th, actually. But have your leaves out to the street by the 16th because, they make one loop through the town. So don't wait till the 20th. They may have already gone down your street. But it is continuing because those leaves are just taking their time again.
And that's this month, not January.
That's correct. That is this month, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
any comments or questions?
No, I just have a question, has nothing to do with what we covered here, though. In case of a blackout situation that we have safety plans in place on how to open the village office and so forth for, if, like we had last year.
Right, yes.
And I know we have now an electric possibility for this building to always have heat and to always have electricity and probably chargers for phones, etc. But do we have a plan of attack if that were to happen? who would be the first one in charge, and how is that distributed? Do we?
Yeah, that's something that Chief and I would be working together on.
I can answer that. Yes,
Okay.
our plans are in place. They're in our emergency disaster policy. Those have all been verified by CALIA, the Accreditation Commission, and they are in place and updated.
All right, thank you.
Right. Moving on, our law director is not with us tonight. Clerk of Council, Mr. Roberts.
No report.
Report, okay. Chief of Police, Neil Furterman.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't have a full report because we're a little early in the month for that. We do have a number of things planned for the holidays, including Shop with a Cop and other activities that we'll outline for you in our full report, and that will be sent to you in the next several weeks. I do have statistics for the past month of November. We handled 4 vehicle accidents. We had 6 Part 1 crimes, 5 of which were cleared by arrest. 479 incidents. We had 288 calls dispatched to us and 346 that were initiated by our officers. We had 120 incidences of service to our citizens, such as motorist assists and vacation house checks, business checks. We assisted other agencies 56 times. We made a total of 6 criminal arrests and 51 traffic arrests. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Comments or questions? And I have no report. I did the court receipts last month, and since it's early in the month, we don't have our court numbers yet. Moving on to committee reports, Recreation Cable Television, Natasha Metz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention that Light Up Greenhills was a success. It was great. If anybody missed it and didn't get a chance to stop by, Waycross actually has a video posted on their YouTube. And I was going to request, Yvonne, if you wouldn't mind, maybe posting that link to your account on Nextdoor so that people could see everything that went on. So other than that, that's all I got.
See what they missed.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a nice night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's typically the first Friday night of December. Put it on your calendar for next year.
Thank you.
Okay, Intergovernmental Affairs, Laws and Rules, Marie Walther.
We just had a meeting today before coming to the council meeting, and we had several things to talk about. We had the section 521.11 dumping of snow and or grass clippings. We discussed that. We had discussed also having the appropriate sections for our code regarding the habitual violators. We have the section 521, and we decided that for the problems in there would be most likely we're going to discuss that further with Mr. Forbes, but we thought that perhaps we will have the first time violator a verbal approach, the second time would be a written approach, and then the third time would be a fine. We had some of the wording of the code that has to do particularly like in 24 hours removal of snow and ice that physically may be impossible to do. There were other concerns were the elderly involved in that, either by a couple, spouses that live in the place and they are 80 years old, let's say, or 85. And besides weather permitting, sometimes we have 3 storms, one behind the other, so we don't have any time in between. There was also concern about the runoff waters that freezes and refreezes, and what is the wording that we're going to select for that. We talked about to eliminate the wording of the 24 hours. That's for sure that we decide on that. We were present at the meeting, myself, Mr. Mayor, Melanie Hermes, and the village manager, Ms. Kovac. And I brought up a couple of things to the table, the fact that there is a cap, which is through the Hamilton County for a certain relief for the sewage bill for the elderly, and it's a composition of the age, the income, and the property. And it's a very simple kind of application, and Ms. Kovac very gracefully said that she was going to maybe put it on the website so the senior citizens may be able to get access to that. And it can reduce the cost of the bill of sewage 25% if you are so qualified. We put the date for the next meeting for February the 11th at the same time, which is 6 o'clock, or as close to as possible we can. Today, we started with 6:12, but prior to that, we have another meeting. So thank you so much for all of the ones that attended, and I really would like to hear some of the input, if anybody's listening, if they would apply for that reduction of the 25% of the sewage bill part. Like I said, it's a combination, number one, of age, number two is for income, and number three is your property. All right, thank you.
Okay, comments or questions?
The biggest thing I wanted to reiterate is when we talked about the different codes and sections, it was more, we're more focused on informative, not punitive. We wanted to make people aware of the violation and have a chance to fix the problem.
To fix the problem.
It's not punitive. It's truly for the safety concern of some of the stuff being put in the streets. We want people to be educated and to maintain it so that we could have a safe community. So I just really wanted to reiterate that, again, it's more informational and less punitive for when we're discussing these items.
Okay. Service and Streets, Jennifer Osmanaglu.
We had a meeting on Thursday, December 5th, and we discussed about the license plate fee, that all the monies that are received from that fee will only be used for street repairs and the costs associated with that. We discussed future plans for the roundabout at Hadley and Farragut, and that's far away. We talked about the Winton Road update. And Yvonne went over that, so we discussed that as well, that they were trying to find a better bid on fixing it. Garbage cans we discussed with trash collection and how some residents have made a lot of efforts to conceal their trash cans. And then the leaf collection as well, that have all your leaves collected by December 16th in order to ensure that they will be picked up by the final date of the leaf collection. Ms. Bender, if you'd like me to introduce myself to you, I'd be happy to at the end of the meeting, because I don't want you to think that there's strangers on the, you know. There are. So, but Chief Fertelman was nice enough to feature me in the police blotter 2 issues ago. So that gave a little bit of background about me, but I'll be happy to.
Police blotter?
Can we,
Yes, I was in the police blotter.
can we explain a little bit further on that?
You were not the most wanted.
And nothing to do with crimes, which I have none, so but I'm happy to talk to you.
Is there any general things you can
Okay.
I think what I bring to the council is that I really do care about this community. I've lived here for almost 10 years, and I have a child in the Wintonwood School District, and I have a vested interest in the community, and I do care. And I'd like to, you know, try to do the best I can and try to do as well of a job as I can. So, you know, any input is fine, so, yeah, and appreciate it as well. But I'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting. All right? Thank you.
And she was appointed by me.
I do have one question about the
Sure.
roundabout.
Oh, sure.
Is that a tentative thing? We're not sure if that'll happen, or what's the
We can
change?
take as far as we can.
Okay,
It's the most desirable
I think it is.
choice for the roads.
I
there, so we would
I
like
live
to
right by
see that
there, and I
happen.
just look at those buses trying to make an acute angle
Oh,
turn.
Yeah.
And that's with much fewer buses than it's going to see in the future, so I really hope that does happen. I think it's best for the community.
I think too, I drive around a lot during rush hour traffic, especially up north in Westchester and that area, and there are a lot of roundabouts, and it seems like the traffic is just better.
Flow.
Yeah, it's a better
They
flow, there's
distribute
not,
it, yeah.
right, than
Yeah.
a four-way, there's
Yeah.
that stop, 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 and, I mean, sometimes you're stuck there for a long time, so yeah.
There are-
Traffic flow, it's definitely better.
There are fewer conflict points as well.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, moving on, Jeff Halder, Community Development.
Yes, I'll throw in an additional good job for the Light Up Greenhills, the volunteers, those that attended. I got to stand by the carriage for a little while, not as long as Melody and some other people, the mayor. But to see the families, it was a very family-friendly event, and the kids were just excited to have the carriage ride. Thanks to all the vendors that participated. I just thought it was the ice sculpture was amazing too. So a good event. If you missed it, really recommend it for next year as well. And then I just wanted to ask Yvonne about the shopping center sign and where we stand progress-wise.
Actually, you'll probably start seeing the base go in fairly soon.
Okay.
Like maybe within the next couple weeks.
Good, so, and then do we have an estimated completion date, you think?
No, not
Weather-
really.
Okay, weather
But it's
permitting and
under-
that kind of thing.
It's being manufactured.
Okay,
But
great,
the base, yeah, that's why they're anxious to get the base in now, so that's in place already whenever the sign comes in.
wonderful. And then with the scrambling of committees, we have not met yet, but we need to schedule our next community development meeting, and we'll let you know when that takes place. But that concludes my report for this evening.
That'd be you.
That's why I'm nodding.
Okay.
Any comments, questions? All right. Safety, Melanie Hermes?
The Safety Committee did meet today at 5:30 PM. Present were myself and Maria Walther, again, and also with Mayor Moore, Manager Kovac, Police Chief Futterman, and actually Fire Chief Spaeth was there as well. Our first subject was the policing software. Our current software is discontinuing at the end of 2021, and so the chief is looking at additional options right now. There are two, Sundance and UC Crime Lab. He's leaning towards UC Crime Lab. I might have said their name wrong, but it's the University of Cincinnati, their product. The municipal manager does have the authority to take final action, so no action will be needed by council, but he will keep us informed, just so we know what's going on. And one of the items that he's looking at is making sure that our current data can be uploaded into the new software, so that officers are only using one software if they're looking up old stuff or new stuff, so they don't have to jump between more than one program, especially if the old program is no longer going to be supported. Then the fire chief was here, and he talked about his current roster. We're currently sitting about 40 active members. A new EMT class will be starting, emergency medical technician class will be starting in January. We are hosting the class here at the Greenhills Fire Department, but it is open to surrounding departments as well. We are having 5 from the Greenhills Fire Department or to be on the Greenhills Fire Department to be taking the class. So he's looking forward to that class. Again, that was just informative, no action needs to be taken. We also discussed their air packs. This is their self-contained breathing apparatus. They are due to expire at the end of this year. They have applied for several grants and unfortunately have not received any. They will be purchasing 5 air packs by the end of this year with the goal of purchasing 5 additional air packs first quarter of next year. They are working with neighboring jurisdictions to see that actually they're going in on the purchase with some neighboring jurisdictions to get the cost discounts that comes from multiple order or a sizable order opposed to just an order of 5. So it is we are lucky to have a volunteer fire department, but we're also lucky to be in Hamilton County where the neighboring departments do work together and work together cooperatively. The chief will continue to apply for grants, and he also discussed a state marshal loan that has a 10-year no interest component to it, just for some kind of price scope so you can see what we're looking at. One air pack is about $7,500. So it's not a small number when we're talking about replacing the air pack component. And this is what they use so when they go into fire so that they can breathe. Not fire, but self-contained breathing apparatus. The next discussion was regarding parking. The fire chief brought up that he's had some concerns on 2 of our streets, one being Dayspring. Currently, you can park on both sides of Dayspring, and he would like us to, we talked about looking at having a fire lane put in on one side. And the other area would be Avenel. There's some issues with the Avenel. It's a dead end, and there's some issues not just with fire trucks. He said even the ambulance, which is not as wide as a fire truck, does have some issues when going in that area. Obviously, service to our residents when it comes to emergency situations. We want to make sure that our emergency vehicles can have access. But we also have had discussions almost every single Wednesday, it seems, with the Rumpke drivers about the Rumpke trucks are unable to get through as well. So our committee has asked the manager to look into getting information on putting a fire lane on Dayspring, how that would happen, and what that would look like. And also to look at the green space and other parking options on Avenel. As we know, Avenel is a little trickier than Dayspring, as a lot of those units don't have off-street parking. So we do have to take into consideration that we do need off-street parking there, as well as consideration on emergency apparatus and trash collection, just so that services can be provided. We want to make sure that our residents are served for both safety and for, not necessarily safety, but definitely an amenity and utility that we like to use. So those were the items we discussed, and our next meeting is also the same day as Laws and Rules. It will be Tuesday, February 11th at 5:30 p.m. So hopefully we'll have information on the topics that we sent to the manager for questions on, and then we'll have some action that we might need to bring to in front of council. That's all I have.
Answer questions?
I just wanted to add on that a number of us attended the Greenhills Fire Department annual meeting, and I say this sincerely, most professional, focused, and motivated group for a volunteer group. I mean, it was so organized, and I like how Tony gives out awards, but also has that vision for the future and what he's hoping and expecting. But great bunch of people that serve this community. Thank them if you get a chance.
And he did mention there was an individual that wasn't able to receive his award at their annual meeting, so that he plans on having it at the January 28th meeting, but we have to coordinate that. So be on the lookout for a special recognition for one of our firefighters.
Okay. Finance and Audit, Jack Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met on December 5th. We had two items on our agenda. First was to review the proposed 2020 appropriations, looking at the year-to-date or year-to-year overall. There's a reductions in appropriations from 2019 to 2020 of over $300,000. Most of that is centered in three particular items that I'm sure Heimer will get into here shortly, but just to highlight them, the community planning and zoning was a big reduction. That was due to the fact that we had to account for the building permit for the new school in the budget scheme. But there were also sizable reductions in capital outlay in land and buildings. So I'll shut up and let Mrs. Heimer and Garrett go.
I'll just add
Okay.
a few points to that. Our annual permanent appropriation consists of the estimated expenses for 2020, the general fund, and then our special revenue and other funds. And the general fund expenditures are estimated to be approximately $2,195,195. The total appropriations for the village will be a little over $4.4 million. And the revenues to support those estimated expenditures are about 2.5 for the general fund and over 5.3 for the total. And so those numbers show an increase in revenues of about $336,000 and overall an approximate difference to the good of about $893,000. And that includes the transfers in, which we do every year. We have determined the general fund will supplement the police department, our debt service, and our swimming pool. The police will again receive $299,000. That is the same as 2019. There's no increase there. Our debt debt service goes up, determined by the debt service schedule, so that will go up a little bit in 2020 before dropping off the next few years. And the pool will receive $89,000 from the general fund. So really what all this means is that the promised resources are sufficient enough to support our expenditures for 2020. This will also allow us to build our fund balance a little bit, rather than using fund balance to supplement the expenditures. So, we're going into 2020 in a much better position. The final appropriations this year were $4.7 million. Next year, they're going to be 4.4. So we're going to have a reduction of about $338,000, as Jack had mentioned, or about a 7% reduction in expenditures.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, just one other thing, and there's a resolution coming up, following up on previously discussed among councils, the inflationary increase for our 3 salaried employees. So that resolution is on the docket as well. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Comments or questions?
Well, I was just going to say, for those who are unfamiliar with fund accounting, the basic overview is you can only, some funds, you transfer money out of the general fund, so sometimes it looks like it's counted twice. And that's kind of, you can only spend money from funds for certain things. So it's not like a checkbook where you can spend your money on everything. You actually, there's some variations, so it's a little bit more complicated than that. So sometimes when you hear them talking about transfers, sometimes that's money going from the general fund into another fund, but then that money gets spent again. So it is kind of listed twice, but it's on purpose for the rules we have to follow, being government funding.
Okay, moving on, new business. There's no unfinished business. First item on the agenda is Resolution 2019-38-F, resolution approving the annual permanent appropriations for 2020. That's what we were just discussing. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2019-38F, resolution approving annual permanent appropriations for 2020. Resolution to make permanent appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Greenhills, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, pursuant to Exhibit A, permanent appropriation for 2020 attached hereto and by reference made a part of. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, State of Ohio, Section 1, to provide for the current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Greenhills during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, the following sums, and they are hereby set aside and appropriated as follows, namely, that there will be appropriated from the general fund $2,195,057, that there will be appropriated from the special revenue funds $1,923,000.
42.
It was corrected.
There's a correction.
Oh, okay.
$1,923,219, that there will be appropriated from the debt bond retirement fund $244,237, and that there will be appropriated from the special assessment fund $52,530, for a grand total of $4,415,043 for all funds. Section 2, that the village finance director is hereby authorized to draw warrants for payments from any of the foregoing appropriations upon receiving proper certificates and vouchers, therefore, approved by the board or officers authorized by law to approve the same, or an ordinance or resolution of council to make the expenditures, provided that there are no warrants, and shall be drawn or paid for salaries or wages except to persons employed by authority of and in accordance with law or ordinance. Section 3, any necessary changes to be made to the appropriations below the legal level of control can be made by the finance director with the approval of the municipal manager. Any changes to the appropriation at or above the legal limit of control require the village council approval. Section 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, call the roll.
Halter,
Aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Lee,
Here, aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Osmanoglu,
Aye.
Walther,
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 2019-38-F, approving annual permanent appropriations for 2020 passes. Next resolution is 2019-39-F, resolution authorizing the municipal manager to enter into an agreement with Anthem for providing health insurance coverage for the employees of the Village of Greenhills. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll pay attention now.
Here.
Resolution 2019-39-F, authorizing the municipal manager to enter into an agreement with Anthem for providing health insurance coverage for the employees of the Village of Greenhills. Whereas the Village of Greenhills provides health insurance benefits for eligible employees, and whereas the village has utilized Horan Associates to request and review proposals for health insurance coverage from various carriers and determine that the proposal submitted by Anthem is the best proposal for the village in terms of quality, service, adaptability, and reflects a continuation of the current plans. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Village of Greenhills, Ohio, Section 1, that the municipal manager is hereby authorized to enter into an agreement with Anthem for the purpose of providing health insurance for eligible employees for the term January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. Section 2, that the village will continue to offer a dual option plan and will pay the same employer contribution dollar amount for both plans. The dollar amount is based on 80% of the highest priced premium plan. Section 3, that the finance director is hereby authorized to pay Anthem monthly premiums totaling an annual amount of approximately $115,500, said amount fluctuating depending upon the number of persons enrolled in the plan. Section 4, that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its adoption. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion, comments?
This is approximately a 5% increase over the
Correct.
prior year premium, which is quite good in today's market.
Okay. Clerk, call the roll.
Walther,
Aye.
Osmanoglu,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Halter,
Aye.
Resolution 2019-39-F passes. Okay, the next resolution is 2019-40-S&S, resolution authorizing assessments on certain properties in the Village of Greenhills. Osmanaglu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-40-S&S, resolution authorizing assessments on certain properties in the Village of Greenhills. Whereas the village has given proper notice to the owners of certain real property in the Village of Greenhills regarding the removal of vegetation, refuse, garbage, and/or debris from the properties listed below. And whereas the owners of said properties did not take action to remedy the violations, and therefore, the Village of Greenhills contracted to remove vegetation, refuse, garbage, and/or debris, and now seeks to collect said expenses by authorizing the placement of a lien upon the lands and collect it as other taxes. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, a majority of which concur that Section 1, that the Village Council hereby certifies that the cost of such labor, together with the expenses relative thereto, be filed on the return and statement to the Hamilton County Commissioners as an assessment against the properties listed and placed as a lien against the properties by the Auditor of Hamilton County, Ohio, as follows. Parcel number 597-0080-0032-00, address of 63 Burley, owner William Shannon, and the cost is $272.43. Parcel number 597-0080-0033-00, address of 53 Burley, the owner KS Real Estate LLC, for a cost $519.64. Parcel number 597-0031-0089-00, address of 14 Junefield. The owner, Brookbank Michael and Carolyn, and that's a cost of $108.67. Parcel number 597-0030-0180-00, address of 1 Hamlin, owner McGee, McGee Matthew, and the cost is $108.67. Parcel number 597-0030-0020-00, address 6 Falcon, the owner SLT Properties of Ohio LLC, for a cost of $592.49. Parcel number 597-0060-0063-00, address 23 Damon, owner Alan, Bonnie, for a cost of $195.19. Parcel number 597-0080-0175-00, address of 6 Beckford, owner JTSS Investments LLC, for a cost of $108.67, for a total of $1,905.76. Section 2, all amounts collected as a result of this resolution shall be placed into the general fund of the Village of Greenhills. Section 3, this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage. Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Just to clarify, majority of this money is paid to actual contractor services to remove the, so it's not like we're collecting a bulk of it. I think there's a small administration fee, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
the county puts a fee on as well.
Okay.
Okay, clerk call the roll.
Osmanoglu,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Halter,
Aye.
Walther.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 2019-40-SNS passes. Next resolution is 2019-41-F, resolution authorizing increase for salaried employees. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2019-41-F, resolution authorizing increases for salaried employees. Be it resolved by the Council of Village Greenhills, State of Ohio, that Section 1, salaried personnel shall receive an increase in compensation effective January 1, 2020, payable as of the January 17, 2020 payday, as follows. Finance Director, 2%. Police Chief, 2%. Municipal Manager, 2%. Section 2, that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its adoption. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded Any comments or questions? Hearing
Council will remember that this was something that we discussed previously and.
They was put together with the steps or something last year.
Right. Yeah,
I think that would
earlier
clarify.
this year.
Yeah, or early this year. I think that would clarify that for
Yeah.
everybody listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, clerk call the roll.
Halter,
Aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Osmanoglu,
Aye.
Walther,
Aye.
Okay, resolution 2019-41-F passes. Next resolution, 2019-42-S&S, resolution levying a $5 permissive licensing tax as authorized by House Bill 62 and RC 4504.173. Ms. Osmanglu.
Osmanoglu.
Yeah.
Close enough.
No,
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-42/S&S, a resolution levying a $5 permissive licensing tax is authorized by House Bill 62 and RC 4504.173. Be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring, Section 1, that there is hereby levied an annual license tax upon operation of motor vehicles on the public roads or highways pursuant to Section 4504.173 of the Ohio Revised Code for the purposes of paying the costs and expenses of enforcing and administering the tax provided for in this section, and to provide additional revenue for the permitted purposes set forth by state law, and to supplement revenue already available for such purposes. Section 2, that such tax shall be at the rate of $5 per motor vehicle on each and every motor vehicle the district registration of which, as defined by state law, is in the Village of Greenhills, Ohio. Section 3, that is used in this resolution, the term motor vehicle means any and all vehicles included within the definition of motor vehicle found in sections 4501.01 and 4505.01 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, that the tax imposed by this resolution shall apply to and be in effect for the registration year commencing January 1st, 2020, and shall continue in effect in application during each registration year thereafter. Section 5, that the tax imposed by this resolution shall be paid to the Registrar of Motor Vehicles of the State of Ohio or to a deputy registrar at the time application for registration of a motor vehicle is made, as provided in Section 4503.10 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 6, that all the monies derived from the tax herein before levied shall be used by the Village of Greenhills for the purposes specified in this resolution. Section 7, that this resolution shall take effect on and after the earliest date allowed by law. Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm personally averse to this because of a couple reasons. When we first started this year, we changed up how we were going to be doing work sessions and committee meetings and stuff, and we started off saying that we would be discussing larger items like this that could take the whole council input at work sessions, and the only notice that I've heard of it is in the minutes from the meeting that I missed, saying that it was mentioned that it was potentially going to be discussed, and now it's a resolution. So I've had no input, no consideration, no discussion at all, and so I'm not too excited about how that happened. And then additionally, it seems like we're just doing the $5 because we can, and I know that we just passed the street and levy. We also did the police the other year. Like, we're stacking it on, and I'm not seeing a need for it in the budget. So if somebody wants to, enlighten me about that, that'd be great. But those are just, from my perspective, I'm not okay with it.
Well, we discussed it and felt the cost of the street repairs are rising considerably, and we've discussed it a few times. I'm sorry that, that you were not at that meeting. I mean, I got the general consensus that we, that it was I think it makes sense. It's $5, and I think that it would help to, for the repairs, so.
One of the things, I think one of the questions that came up, I don't know if I heard an answer on it, was in some circumstances, if we don't take it, the county does.
Right, in this case, in this particular one, it doesn't.
Okay.
But when we talk about road work, we were successful to get the first 2 phases of Winton Road resurfaced with state grants. The state grant program is pretty much dried up, so it's state loan programs. So the $800,000, roughly what this will cost, we will have to pay back. This $5 and the street levy renewal generated $38,000, $36,000 roughly, which has been helping with the streets for years. But if we were just applying that to paying back the state loan we're getting, that'll take 22 years of that levy. The amount of money that we will be getting from the $5 on the license plate fee amounts to probably around $14,000 to $15,000 a year. So it's not a tremendous amount, but it's, the need is out there. Next year, we're no doubt going to have to do Ingram, probably Farragut in resurfacing, and we're looking at a couple $100,000 at least to do that. And those roads are going to have to come out of our street money to do that. Whereas both Farragut and Ingram, when they were the last time they were resurfaced and had new curbs, we were successful to get a state grant to pay the 80% cost of that program. Same way with Damon. So those monies are ending, and
One
if we
thing-
want to have it done, we're going to have to generate money from our taxpayers.
So one thing I think would be helpful is if we saw a graph on previous available money versus what we are expending now or will expend for the streets and surfaces. Because as it stands right now, we've lost the estate tax. Even though we look good budget-wise now, I think we should be very conscientious of what we're going to be up against, because I don't think grants are going to be as readily available as they once were. That's a huge hit in itself. So until we have a really substantial amount of cushion, I think we need to be chipping away at it, and I think this is a viable way to do that.
I think one of the harder things to come to terms with is the fact that it was so quick, and we don't really have a designated, yes, we need 14,000 for this. So,
Well, it's actually much greater than 14,000. We have a much greater need than $14,000.
right, but
for
what this
streets.
generates is 14,000, that's what I'm referring to.
No, right, I
Well,
mean,
but we
14
won't
or
get the
15.
14,000 until the end of next year.
Right.
So we get it paid to us monthly, but it'll be spread
Right,
out.
I'm just referring in the general aspect that what this will generate doesn't have a specific purpose, it's just, it's going to streets repairs. Like, it's not, this is
well, that
going
is a
to Wittenwood,
specific-
this is
Isn't that
going
a
to
specific
this.
purpose?
Yeah.
Street
I-
repairs.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Like a big project.
I
is
would
what
like to
I'm-
comment on
I think
that.
as long as it's going,
Okay.
as long as it's going for streets, that is a very specific purpose. And I don't see that fund being rich with grant money in the future, so I think it's a wise.
If I
move.
can make a
Oh, go
quick
ahead.
comment. I think this is probably something, but it would be, that is needed. However, I know that the work was done. It would just be nice for us to see the work.
Yes.
Not just have the resolution, but also the backup that shows why, that it was talked about in committee, and that, I know Jeff had the question about if the county could take it. I know that was one we had asked, but we had never gotten the answer to. So just, I am sure that the background work has been done. It's just kind of, it would be nice
More of a
to see the work before we get the resolution in front of us.
Because if the council members haven't seen it, then the residents obviously.
It's hard to
don't.
explain it if someone asks me about it.
right.
Exactly.
And I also had the question of certain cases, people buying the license for 5 years in the car.
I'll be buying mine for 4.
So that's, and how is that going to be?
Is that an answer?
Well, the state will assess that. And I
Yes.
don't know if we have to have this into the state by the first of the year, or if it, that's one of the reasons we're doing it, because they start the collection, or it starts in January. And if we have a bad winter, I don't know how much we've spent already on salt. The salt bid's not quite double of what it was last year.
It's pretty big. Fortunately, we haven't
Does-
had to spend too much yet,
Is
but.
is
So
the
does it have to be
timeframe
in?
January 1 that this has to,
Well, that's when it will change, yes, and so this came about within the last, six months, and it gave folks a chance to either put it, into play. I mean, there was an option, yes or no, but, yes, we had to be on board for the 2020 monies to come to us. And the funds for those, according to the Auditor of State, they are restricted funds. Monies are classified, and that classification is restricted, 100% restricted, so they cannot be used for any other purpose other than road improvements and repairs.
And if I could comment on the projects per se, at any time, we're probably have a list of 6 or 10 streets that our engineers already priced out for us for repair. We try to take 1 or 2 of those every year to do if we can. There's obviously been years when we haven't been able to, but there's always a need. And it just depends on how many roads or how much work we'd be able to get done.
And then just a response to the police levy and also the schools. I don't see that as relevant. I think everything that comes on the table, people voted for the schools. Not everybody voted, but the majority voted for that. The police levy are all individual needs. You'd love to say there's no taxes and don't worry about it, but I don't see that as a valid argument, whether this makes sense or not. This might not make sense or on its own merits, but to group those together, I don't think is a fair comparison.
And I think that one thing that has failed to come in here, and perhaps I did not explain myself clearly, I already pay ahead for my license plates. So how, I want to be fair.
You get a free pass.
Well, that's what I'm objecting to that as well, because I feel like somebody else is going to be paying for the next few years, while I will not, because I pay ahead on the license plate, and I don't see that as fair either.
But that's a choice. That's a choice you make. You don't have to pay ahead.
And we're not talking, I realize it's an additional fee, but, I have 5 cars, it'll cost me $25 a year. I would rather have the pothole out in front patched, which will cost double that amount than my $25, but, okay.
I appreciate the clarifications, and then I would just request that, should it pass, if there be some sort of information put out there on the website, on the blog, on the next door, just to let people know how we got to that thing. At least give me something to be able to talk to people about when they ask me what and all of that. That's my request.
Okay. Clerk, call the roll.
Walther,
Aye.
Osmanoglu,
Aye.
Metz,
Nay.
Lee,
aye.
Hermes,
Aye.
Coulter,
Aye.
Okay, resolution 2019-42-SNS passes. Okay, that's all we have in resolutions. Calendar? We have-
February the 11th, laws and rules and safety. One is at 5:30, the other one is at 6.
This is our
And-
last meeting of the year. We will not be meeting on Christmas Eve.
Thank you.
Sometime in February, date to be determined, the Finance Committee will probably meet with Mrs. Heimer concerning the 2019 financial statements, and also January, date to be determined. Maria, the Fireman's Dependency Fund
Yeah.
will meet. that date is to be
Yeah, I haven't heard
determined.
anything about it.
And also a reminder, trash pickup will not happen on the 25th or the 1st. They will be on the Thursday after.
And our next, did we say our next council meeting is the,
Melanie covered it.
The next council meeting is January 14th. It will be both a council meeting and a work session. And also, next week, we will be doing the mayor's determination of
Christmas lighting?
Christmas
light up,
lightings, holiday
Holiday
lights.
lighting, or whatever. And
So
so,
finish your holiday decorations this
Right.
week and turn your lights on at 5 every day, and hopefully, we'll have a one-call go out when we know exactly what time we'll be going out.
okay. And the historic
Oh, yeah,
designation meeting will be on January 21st at 6:30 up here. Anything else? Not hearing? Meeting adjourned.